非常欢迎继续收看佛学英文这一堂课。Most welcome to this Buddhist English class. Let's read a few sentences and we will analyze the contents of those sentences in order to fully understand the meaning of the context. Repeat after me. We run here and there all our lives, trying to be successful, correct, and right, when the goal of life is learning. Meditation does not necessarily make us feel good, but it does awaken us to the many things we do fear. A meditation retreat brings great relief because for a time we don't have to take our mind and its problems seriously. We don't have to act upon its thousand wandering thoughts. We just note them mindfully and they pass away. The untrained mind is so vulnerable to circumstances. Something good happens and it is happy. Something bad happens and it is in pain. One who sufficiently suffers the attachments and aversions of his mind's uncontrolled wanderings quickly become watchful of any direction in which the mind moves. Your mind has a mind of its own. Where do you feed it? Thoughts are not necessarily connected with reality. That is why the Buddha taught us to be aware of them before we are influenced by them. What happens between the time we awake and the time we go to bed is out of our control. Bittersweet goes the depth of him, the clouded and the distracted stranger to reality without awareness. He stumbles and falls. He hurts himself to death. Repeat. We run here and there all our lives trying to be successful, correct, and right, when the goal of life is learning. Meditation does not necessarily make us feel good, but it does awaken us to the many things we do fear. A meditation retreat brings great relief because for a time we don't have to take our mind and its problems seriously. We don't have to act upon its thousand wandering thoughts. We just note them mindfully and they pass away. The untrained mind is so vulnerable to circumstances. Something good happens and it is happy. Something bad happens and it is in pain. One who sufficiently suffers the attachments and aversions of his mind's uncontrolled wanderings quickly becomes watchful of any direction in which the mind moves. Your mind has a mind of its own. Where do you feed it? Thoughts are not necessarily connected with reality. That is why the Buddha taught us to be aware of them before we are influenced by them. What happens between the time we awake and the time we go to bed is out of our control. Bittersweet goes the life of him, that clouded and distracted stranger to reality without awareness. He stumbles and falls. He hurts himself to death. In our last class, we have discussed the way to practice meditation. And the best way to practice meditation is to attend a meditation retreat under the guidance of a qualified teacher. In a quiet place, we can easily calm down our mind and understand ourselves, and therefore develop our wisdom. Although the wisdom we develop should need our pain in the practice, this wisdom can cut off our suffering, can lead us to the right direction of our life, and understand the reality of our life in order to be a free and a peaceful person. If we can take everything in our life and accept them as our teacher, then we can learn anytime and anywhere, and we can gain the wisdom. We can be a totally free and independent person. We will not be influenced by the circumstance. Life is a process of learning. Life is the development of our wisdom in order to be a free and happy person. We run here and there all our lives trying to be successful, right, and then correct, when the goal of life is learning. When we determine to learn, whatever we may encounter, whatever we may have in our daily life, then we are so busy to learn everything, to experience everything, and to gain the wisdom of our life. We run here and there. We are so busy. We attend the class. We attend the meditation retreat. We go to the teachings of a qualified teacher. We go to the library to find books to read, or we listen to the videotape. We watch the TV in order to enrich our knowledge. We run here and there. Our purpose is trying to be successful, correct, and right. All our lives, in our whole life, we run here and there. We run here and there. All our lives. What is the purpose to be so busy? What is the purpose of our running here and running there? The purpose is nothing but trying to be successful, correct, and right. We hope to have a successful career. We hope to have a successful life. We hope to be a successful person, to be respected by all people. And we want to be correct and the right person. We want to do the correct and the right behavior. We want to speak the correct and the right speech. And we hope to think in the correct and the right way. It is our goal of life. Learning to enrich our knowledge, learning to gain wisdom, learning at any moment, at any place. We can develop our wisdom. We can develop our awareness and mindfulness in order to be successful, correct, and right. We can go to any place at any time and learn everything. We can accept everything as our teacher. We can treat any person as a teacher. We can treat our life events as our teachers. Meditation does not necessarily make us feel good, but it does awaken us to the many things we do fear. Meditation is a hard process. Meditation is a hard work. It is not easy to sit meditation because during a meditation retreat, we do nothing but just focus our mind on a certain object. It is against our common life. It is totally out of our usual custom. In the past, we are trained to have a wandering mind. We are trained to be not aware of what we are, who we are. To train ourselves to come down is a very hard job. It's a difficult task, but it is worthwhile. Meditation does not necessarily make us feel good. Of course, sometimes, if we have the proper way in sitting meditation, we can feel very peacefully. We can feel very good. But during the process of practicing meditation, it is not necessary to have a peaceful time. Sometimes we will feel pain in our legs, in our body. We will feel pain in our mind because we do nothing. We are just there to focus on our mind. And it is against our common way. It is against our past life. Therefore, meditation does not necessarily bring us good feelings. Meditation will not always make us feel good, but meditation will awaken us to the many things we do fear. We may feel bad during the process of meditation, but we will be mindful of many things we do fear. When we contact the external world, when we see something, when we hear some sounds, when we smell some odor, when we taste, when we touch something, we may not feel good. Most of the time, our mind will be perplexed. Our mind will be carried by our sensation. When we touch the external world, we will have certain types of sensation in our physical body, in our mind. These feelings and sensations will carry us away. And we will feel suffering because our mind is not at present, because our mind is always wandering away. We cannot focus our mind upon this certain object. We will feel bad, we will feel deluded, but meditation will bring us to the many things we do fear. Maybe we will feel bitter, we will feel pain, we will feel hot, we will feel cold. Many kinds of sensation will happen to our body and to our mind. Meditation can make us awaken to the many things we do fear. In the past, when we have sensations, we will be carried away. We will be cheated by the sensations. And sometimes we will feel happy, sometimes we will feel painful. That is why we are so miserable in this world. Because our mind is not aware of what we are doing, what we are speaking, what we are thinking. Meditation has this advantage to awaken us to the many things we do fear. We may fear the things like this. We may fear the things like that. Before we practice meditation, we are not aware of those things we do fear. Meditation will awaken us to the many things we do feel. Although meditation will not necessarily make us feel good. A meditation retreat brings great relief because for a time we don't have to take our mind and its problems seriously. A meditation retreat has a duration of certain time. For example, 3 days, 1 week, 10 days, 1 month, and so on. A meditation retreat brings great relief. We don't need to worry about our daily life. We don't need to worry about our business. We don't need to worry about our external world. We just go to attend a meditation retreat. And this meditation retreat brings great relief. Great relief means we don't need to worry too much. We don't need to concern about anything. Because for a time, we don't have to take our mind and its problems seriously. We don't have to take our mind and its problems seriously. We don't need to concern about the state of our mind. We don't need to concern about our mental problems too seriously. Because meditation is just to let go of everything we may have in our life, in our body, in our mind. Meditation is just to relax our body and to relax our mind. Meditation is just to train our mind to rest on the present time. We don't have to take the mind too seriously. We don't have to worry about the confusion of our mind. Because we understand the meditation is meditation. Meditation is a relaxation. Meditation is just to let go of all the troubles, all the sufferings we may have, all the desires we may have. Therefore, a meditation retreat brings great relief. Brings great relief is to take away our burden, is to take away our worry, is to take away our confusion. We're just there to receive the training. For the period of time when we are in the meditation retreat, we don't have to take our mind and its troubles seriously. We don't have to act upon its thousand wandering thoughts. We just note them mindfully, and they pass away. Before we take the meditation training, we have thousands and thousands of thoughts in our mind. Our mind is in a great confusion. Our mind is always away from the present time. But during a meditation retreat, we don't have to take upon its thousands wandering thoughts. We don't have to act upon its thousand wandering thoughts. That means we don't need to pay attention to the thousands wandering thoughts. We don't need to care about them. We don't need to worry about the wandering away of our mind. We don't have to act upon its thousand wandering thoughts. We just note them mindfully and they pass away. We just note them mindfully. When there is a thought of suffering happens in our mind, then we note, that we have the sensation of suffering. If we feel pain, then in our mind we just note that there is a feeling of sense of pain. When we feel bitter, then we just note that we feel bitter. When we feel happiness, we just note that there is a sensation of happiness. We just make a mental note. We just to be mindful of what is happening in our mind. Don't worry about where does it come from. Don't worry about where it goes. We just note them in our mind. That is enough. Don't attach to them. Don't try to resist them. Don't try to cling to them. Those thousand wandering thoughts will pass away by themselves because they come out of combination of the causes and the conditions. And once any cause or condition changes, the thought will pass away naturally and automatically. We don't have to worry about what a thought is. We just note them in our mind. We just be aware of any thought in our mind. That is enough. And any thought, no matter it is a great thought or little thought, no matter it is a happy thought or unhappy thought, no matter it is a good thought or bad thought, it will pass away naturally because it is the law of nature. The law of nature is any dependent originated thing will appear and disappear totally because of the causes and the condition. The untrained mind is so vulnerable to circumstances. The untrained mind means the mind which doesn't receive training. A mind which doesn't in a meditation state. The untrained mind is the ordinary mind. The ordinary mind is without training. Vulnerable to means to be hurt, to be harmed, to be influenced by the circumstances the untrained mind is so vulnerable to circumstance. An ordinary mind is easily hurt by the circumstance. Something good happens and it is happy. Something bad happens and it is in pain. That is the usual state of an untrained mind. When something good happens, the mind will feel happy. When something bad happens, the mind will feel painful. In fact, something is something. Something is totally unconnected with the mind. Something is totally isolated or independent from our mind. However, because our mind is always trying to attach to something, our mind is conditioned to build a bridge between itself and the external circumstances. When something good happens, the mind will feel happy. When something bad happens, the mind will be in pain. Actually, it is out of the delusion of the mind, because the mind doesn't understand that the circumstance has nothing to do with itself. Only out of the delusion of the mind that the mind clings to the external circumstance. The mind is so vulnerable to circumstance. The mind is so easily influenced by the circumstances. One who has sufficiently suffered the attachments and aversions of his mind's uncontrolled wanderings quickly becomes watchful of anything in which the mind moves. One who has sufficiently suffered the attachments of aversions of his mind's uncontrolled wanderings quickly becomes watchful of any direction in which the mind moves. If one person takes meditation and trains his mind to calm down, he can easily be aware of any direction in which his mind moves, because in the past he has sufficiently suffered the attachments and aversions of his mind's uncontrolled wanderings. His mind is not under control. His mind has 1,000 wandering thoughts. Those thoughts are out of his control. He has suffered sufficiently the attachments and aversions. Attachments means the desire, the cleanness. And aversion means the hatred. In the past, he didn't practice meditation. Therefore, he was not mindful of what is within himself and what is outside himself. He has suffered so much from the attachments and aversions of his mind's uncontrolled wanderings. However, right now, he is taking meditation. He is training his mind to be at the present time, to be aware of himself. He will become aware of any direction the mind is moving. After training, he can easily notice that his mind is wandering away. After the training, he can easily locate where his wandering mind is. And then he can call back his mind easily. Because the objective of attending a meditation retreat is to train a mind at the present time and at the present place. So, his mind is mindful and is aware of any direction. His mind is wandering away. Your mind has a mind of its own. Where does you fit it? Your mind have its own style of thinking. Your mind has received so many trainings and experiences, and your mind has a mind of its own. No need to change your mind. No need to educate your mind. Your mind has a mind of its own. It is the law of nature. It is the law of karma. But the problem is, where does you fit your mind? The problem is, where does you locate your mind? The problem is, where does you rest on your mind? It is the problem of we ordinary people. We don't have a concentrated mind. We don't know where our mind goes. We are always in such a miserable state. We lose our minds, and we don't know how to call back our mind. Thoughts are not necessarily connected with reality. Thoughts are usually away from the present time, the present place. Thoughts are not necessarily connected with reality. Reality is the fact of life. Perhaps we are standing here, but our mind is away. Perhaps we are sitting here, but our mind is away. Perhaps we are reading books, but our mind is away. Perhaps we are watching TV, but our mind is away. Thoughts are not necessarily connected with reality, because an untrained mind is always away, is always in confusion. That is why the Buddha taught us to be aware of them before we are influenced by them. Thoughts are not necessarily connected with reality. We are always unmindful. Therefore, we suffer a lot in our daily life. And that is the reason the Buddha taught us to be aware of our wandering thoughts before we are influenced by our wandering thoughts. The Buddha taught us to live here, right here and right now. The Buddha taught us to be aware of our wandering thoughts and note where our wandering thoughts go, and try to be mindful of them. Try to understand the truth of our wandering thoughts before we are influenced by the wandering thoughts. The wandering thoughts will carry us away. The wandering thoughts will bring confusion to ourselves. And we will be influenced by the wandering thoughts. The Buddha was so compassionate to teach us the way to concentrate our mind on the present time and the present place. To be mindful of ourselves, to be aware of our wandering thoughts. Otherwise, our wandering thoughts will influence us, will harm us, will hurt us. What happens between the time we awake and the time we go to bed is out of our control. In the morning, we wake up. Late in the night, we go to bed to take rest. But we cannot control our mind during the time we awake. And we cannot control our mind during the time we are sleeping, we are dreaming. What happens between the time we awake and the time we go to bed is out of our control. Out of our control is so common to everybody of us, because we don't have enough training in meditation, because our mind is controlled to be away, to be in a state of confusion. What happens between the time we awake and the time we go to bed? That means when we are awake, no matter when we are doing our business, no matter when we are reading the books, no matter when we are speaking, no matter when we are thinking, no matter when we are doing our daily work, we cannot control our mind. Our mind is in a confused state. Therefore, we cannot do in the proper way. Therefore, we cannot act properly, we cannot speak properly, and we cannot think properly. That is the greatest problem we have in our daily life. And that is the reason we suffer a lot, because we cannot control our mind, because we cannot direct our mind to what we are doing, what we are speaking, and what we are thinking. Our mind is out of our control. Our thought is not connected with our life reality. We cannot do in an efficient way. We cannot live a happy and a peaceful life. We encounter so many sufferings in our daily life. That is the problem in our life. And the problem of our life actually comes from the problem of our mind. The problem of our mind is confusion, is unmindfulness, is wandering away. And the Buddha told us to be aware of our wandering thoughts before we are influenced by our thoughts. If we don't have enough training in meditation, if we don't have proper training in mindfulness, if we don't have sufficient time of practicing meditation, then we cannot bring our mind under control between the time we awake and the time we go to bed. How miserable we are. What happens between the time we awake and the time we go to bed is out of our control, because everything is dependent originated, because everything comes out of the combination of causes and conditions. And the causes and the conditions are so many that we cannot control them. We cannot direct the causes and the conditions. We cannot order the causes and conditions to act, to flow, or to happen in the way we want. Therefore, what happens between the time we awake and the time we go to bed is out of our control. We are so small. We are only a little part of the whole life, of the whole world. We are not omnipotent. We are not powerful enough to dominate everything. We are not even in a position to control our mind, to direct our mind, and to guide our mind. Bitterness happens all the time, although sweetness happens occasionally. Bittersweet goes the life of him that clouded and a distracted stranger to reality without awareness. He stumbles and falls. He hurts himself to death. We have so many bitterness and so many sweetness in our daily life. And we will feel happy and unhappy all the time. This will cloud and distract our untrained mind to reality without awareness. We can see clearly our life. Therefore, we will stumble, we will fall down, and we will hurt ourselves to death. Thank you for joining us. Thank you.